Vibe coding is one of the hottest trends in software development in 2025, and it all started with this tweet from Andrej Karpathy, which we'll get back to in a moment. In this video, we'll cover what is vibe coding, when do we use it, and then I'll give you a demo of how I think it can be helpful for you as a Twilio developer. So whether you're curious if this is going to work at all, or you're stuck on a problem and you're trying to solve it with these tactics, or you're just excited about new technology, we hope we've got something for you in this vibe coding intro. So what is vibe coding? Let's head back to that source tweet from Andrej Karpathy to see how he defined it. Essentially, we're giving into the LLM, we're giving it control, we're letting it generate code, we're accepting all of its suggestions and feeding back errors to it, and essentially running it and seeing if it works and not getting bogged down in the details. What's the difference between this and AI-assisted coding? Well, I'm going to explain that through a car analogy. Assisted driving are things like adaptive cruise control and lane centering. These are usable on most roads in normal conditions. Contrast that to full self-driving, which is automated driving, often hands-free, and limited to specific areas or road types. Let's take that over to this analogy with AI-assisted versus vibe coding. In AI-assisted, we're asking for help as needed. We're defaulting to reviewing all LLM code changes, and that makes it usable in most projects. Whereas in vibe coding, we're asking for code from the LLM, we default to accepting all of the LLM's changes, and that makes it usable in lower risk projects. So, when do we vibe code? It might actually be easier to talk about when not to. Critical features, overly complex tasks, and anything with security risks. Vibe coding is a much better fit for prototypes, MVPs, and exploring new APIs, which is exactly what we're going to do in this demo using Claude Code. If you're not familiar with Claude Code, it's an agentic coding tool that runs right in your terminal, powered by Claude. To use it, I just run Claude from the command line in the directory that I want to work in. Here I'm going to give it a prompt to build a Twilio voice application using Node.js. I want this application to play an MP3 when someone calls my Twilio phone number. That's all we're going to use for the prompt in this video. We will get into more detailed prompts in future videos, but this is enough for Claude Code to build us a Twilio voice application. You'll see that it starts by creating a to-do list of all the steps that it's going to go through. It's currently looking at our current project structure, which is an empty directory, so this won't take too long. Its next step is to set up a Node.js project with a package.json once it finds out that we don't have one. Here it asks me to confirm. You can pick 1 or 2 for yes to continue. I'm going to pick 1 so that it prompts us every time during this video. Next thing it's going to do is prompt us to install the Twilio and Express dependencies by using npm install. I'll once again say yes. Now it's moving on to the stage where it's going to build the application. It's going to create a Twilio webhook endpoint to handle incoming calls and configure it to return an MP3 file using Twiml. I'll confirm that. We're not going to look at the code. We're just going to trust it and hit yes. This is the vibe coding aspect of it. Rather than look at that code, I'm just going to assume that it's right for now. And if we get any errors, I'll provide it back to Claude Code. So now that it's finished, it tells us what it did. It created an Express server with a /voice webhook that plays an MP3, and it gives us steps for testing the application. Now, I want to use an MP3 provided by Twilio, so we're going to ask for one. I'll just ask Claude Code, does Twilio have any MP3s that they recommend for testing this kind of application? Claude Code will go think about this, probably make a web search to go check and see if there's any MP3 files that we recommend at Twilio for Twiml for MP3 searches, and eventually it's going to come back with an answer. Looks like the web search is done. And here's the response. I like this one from the demo.twilio.com because it comes from the docs, this classic MP3, so I'll tell Claude to use that and integrate it into our application. Claude will get to work on that request and eventually prompt us to update index.js with the new URL for the MP3. I'll once again say yes and let it make the update. And there it is, it's done, it updated the MP3 URL. Now I'm going to ask it what were the steps for testing again, since they've scrolled out of context and I know it'll be able to tell me how to do it instead of me scrolling up and looking for it. Sometimes you get lazy in these vibe coding sessions. So we run node index.js, kick up an ngrok tunnel, and then update our Twilio number. So I'll do that. I'm opening a new terminal window, I'm going to run node index.js, no errors on that. We have a webhook URL at localhost 3000. So I'm going to run ngrok to create an HTTP tunnel on port 3000. Then we just need to grab that ngrok URL to take over to our Twilio number and add /voice to it for an incoming voice call. Over in the Twilio console, on the phone number that I want to update, I'll add this URL for where a call comes in and add /voice. Scroll down, hit save configuration, and our number is good to go to be tested. To make this application a little easier to test for this video, I'm using the Twilio dev phone. If you want to learn more about the Twilio dev phone, visit the link appearing on screen right now. I have the number entered, and let's hit call to see if it plays the MP3. Ah, man, they got me again. That's enough of that. As you can see, this application worked. Let's take a brief look at the code and make sure everything looks good. So here is our application. You can see it's using Express and Twilio as we'd expect. It created a post route for /voice, created a TWIML voice response, did a TWIML play with the classic MP3 URL, returned XML to string at that endpoint, which results in the TWIML that generates the MP3 on the call. So this looks good. Admittedly, this example was fairly simple, but in future videos on the Twilio Devs YouTube channel, we'll dive into more complex examples. If you're looking for something else to watch on this front, we did a recent stream on vibe coding. We've put out a bunch of shorts, and we also have this building with AI playlist that you'll find on the channel. I've also put a video on screen right now that you might like. And until the next video, enjoy the vibes, and I'll see you next time.